Islam Makhachev and Merab Dvalishvili just proved they're the GOATs of their respective divisions. UFC 311 just wrapped up and a lot just happened in the first event of the year. First and shockingly, I guess despite the super soldier level of training and recovery, Arman blew his fucking back out the literal day before his title shot, so we had to see Money Moicano get choked out in the first round. But at least we also got to see Yuri give the fans what they wanted and knocked out Jamal Hill viciously, and this time we actually saw good head movement out of this guy, especially in comparison to what we normally see out of him in the head movement department. But most importantly, and the topic of today's video, is that UFC 311 just crowned two GOATs of their divisions. Islam Makhachev of lightweight and Merab Dvalishvili of bantamweight. Starting with Islam Makhachev, before this historical fourth title defense, there was a solid argument for why Islam Makhachev was already the greatest UFC lightweight of all time. And though it was only Renato Moicano for his recent title defense, with this fourth title defense at lightweight, he surpasses BJ Penn, Frankie Edgar, Benson Henderson, and now his brother Khabib for the most consecutive title defenses in lightweight history. He has also surpassed Mighty Mouse and tied Kamaru Usman for the second longest win streak in UFC history at an insane 15 wins in a row. To really put this dominance into perspective, Islam Makhachev has not lost a fight in almost a decade of fighting the best. And even before that shocking KO loss to Adriano Martins, he was undefeated for almost 5 years. So for the most part, literally for 96.7% of his career, he has only seen winning, and not just winning, but winning at the highest level. Comparing Islam and Khabib's resume side by side, it's pretty clear that Islam's level of competition has begun to edge out Khabib's level of competition in these last couple of years. They both have Dustin Poirier on their resume, which is a great name for both, so that cancels out. So like I said in this video, it really comes down to who they beat in their title fights and defenses. Khabib won the belt by beating Al Iaquinta, which obviously was just a product of the circumstances at the time, as Conor was out boxing and not defending his belt, so he did get the belt in a pretty shitty way. But when it came down to beat the presumed best, he did prove to the world who was really the lightweight king at the time and dominated Conor McGregor and pretty much ended Conor's prime right then and there. He would then go on to add Dustin to his resume, like I said before, and finally Justin Gaethje, again two great lightweight names. Pretty solid resume, but then compare this to Islam Makhachev. Islam won the belt in an exciting performance and finished literally the guy at the time, Charles Oliveira, and ended the exciting Charles Oliveira era by choking the guy with the most submissions in the UFC. Then, this is where Islam really started to separate from Khabib, in my opinion. Islam would fight the consensus pound-for-pound best in Alexander Volkanovski in one of the most, if not the most, high-level matchup of all time, and then fucking assassinate him in the second fight. Granted, Volk had a 2 weeks notice, but still, that's knocking out an all-time great. Then cap off his resume with an exciting fight with Dustin and a fourth title defense with Renato Moicano. You have a resume that is definitely better than Khabib's. Again, Conor, Dustin, and Justin are all great wins and defenses, and even add RDA, who was a former lightweight champion. That's a pretty good resume, but I don't think that holds up against Charles Oliveira, probably the third best lightweight of all time, Alexander Volkanovski twice, who is probably the greatest featherweight of all time, who has at one point the pound-for-pound best, and is probably a top 10 fighter of all time, and then you add Dustin Poirier and one more title defense than Khabib, you can now see why this is the best lightweight resume of all time. So let's just say you still somehow have their resumes pretty close, since you can make the argument that beating the best featherweight of all time is still just beating a featherweight, and Renato Moicano isn't really a good defense since he was ranked number 10th at the time, so okay, sure. Now I think it comes down to what you think is more impressive, the dominance of Khabib or the skill of Islam. Khabib is, like, statistically by far the most dominant fighter in the UFC. In the 38 rounds he has fought, he has only officially lost a round twice. Once in his fight with Conor McGregor, where he lost the third on all 3 scorecards, and another time when he lost the first round to Justin Gaethje on 2 of the 3 judges' scorecards. He also went on an insane 10-8 round streak, starting with the Michael Johnson fight when he got 10-8s on both rounds, and then the entirety of the Edson Barbosa fight. That is 5 rounds straight, where at least one judge on the scorecard gave Khabib Nurmagomedov a 10-8 round. Those are amazing stats coming out of Khabib and his dominance, but I think the skill Islam has showcased case is equally, if not more impressive. He showed amazing striking against an all-time striker in Volkanovski in their first fight and then knocked him out in their second, went toe-to-toe with Dustin Poirier in the striking department in their fight, and in general has shown that he is much more than just a wrestler. Shit, he even knocked down Charles Oliveira in their fight before getting the choke. The way Islam can mix striking to grappling and grappling to striking is something I've never seen before, and I think he truly mixes the martial arts better than anyone else in UFC history. All in all, I think it would be harder to make the case for Khabib and why he is greater than Islam at this point, as now I think Islam is on pace to not only prove that he is the greatest lightweight of all time, but now one of the greatest fighters of all time, period. Now let's move on to the second fighter that just got crowned the GOAT of the division, Merab Dvalishvili. Bantamweight has really never had a dominant consensus GOAT like lightweight and Khabib. Most people would say Dominic Cruz is the greatest bantamweight of all time, who has 4 title defenses, which is the most in bantamweight history, and he has great names under his belt like Uriah Faber, Mighty Mouse, and TJ Dillashaw for defenses. Some people, like Sean O'Malley, may say Aljamain Sterling is the greatest bantamweight, as he has defended the belt 3 times, has TJ Dillashaw, Henry Cejudo, and Petr Yan twice. At least one of those was pretty clear for Aljo, and again, 3 former champions. Some can go as far as to make the case for TJ Dillashaw himself, Henry Cejudo, or even Cody Garbrandt for those 25 minutes. But I think despite Merab only having 1 title defense at bantamweight, he's already made the case for why he is the bantamweight GOAT. Let's start off with that monster 13-fight win streak, the longest win streak by far in the bantamweight division, period, and is tied for number 9 for the longest win streak in UFC history. But what is really impressive is his last 5 wins. Merab has had one of the toughest roads to the top, as he has had to face former champions back to back or a Nurmagomedov in his last 5 fights, starting with a dominant performance over former featherweight champion Jose Aldo, then an even more dominant performance over Petr Yan, where he shot 49 takedowns, which demolished the previous record of 33 takedowns attempted by Cain Velasquez. He then continued his momentum of dominance against Henry Cejudo and made the former double champion look like a child by doing this to an Olympic gold medalist, mind you. This, of course, led to Merab finally getting his deserved title shot and showed the world that striking couldn't compete with his non-stop wrestling and pace, and then against all odds would defeat a very talented Umar Nurmagomedov by literally outpacing him. Umar was literally gassed by the end of the third, while Merab took the last 3 rounds easily and was still running his mouth on the mic even after the fight. 4 former champions and a Nurmagomedov, a 13-fight win streak, and now the most takedowns landed all time at 92, surpassing George St. Pierre, is a mean-ass resume. And whether you like him or not, Merab objectively has a strong case for the greatest bantamweight of all time. If we compare him to Dominic Cruz, who many have as the current bantamweight GOAT, sure, he doesn't have 4 title defenses, but Dominic Cruz only has 2 former UFC champions in his resume, one of which was Demetrius Johnson, who was really just a flyweight at the time. Shit, even his win over TJ Dillashaw was really close and controversial. And now if you compare Merab's resume to his boy Aljo only has 3 former champions, and 2 of those former champions, both Aljo and Merab, won over. Aljo got by with a close decision, while Merab absolutely dominated his way to a decision in each of those, and additionally shut down Sean O'Malley, something Aljo obviously couldn't do. So yeah, UFC 311 was a very unique event in that we probably saw the GOAT status of 2 divisions change in just one night, which is a reminder of how young this sport truly is and how quickly things can change on the all-time list. But anyways, of course, what do you guys think about Merab Dvalishvili and Islam Makhachev? Have they proven enough to officially crown themselves as the greatest of their divisions, or is Khabib or Dominic Cruz or somebody else in the bantamweight division greater than those guys? But I find it very interesting that the sport is always changing. These all-time lists are always very competitive, and the GOAT status can change in every single event. So anyways, thank you guys for always supporting, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.